We have a very special episode today. We are joined by Robert Alessi. I know he has been not only a favorite of the law nerds, but a linguistic inspiration. All of you have expanded your vocabulary through the Karen Reed case and want to know more about Mr. Alessi, his journey in law, being a licensed pharmacist, and more. Just as a reminder, there will be things that I am not going to ask that you're like, Emily, I really wanted you to ask. There are some things that as an attorney, you cannot talk about based on not only rules of ethics, but your confidentiality with your client. And we, of course, aren't going to push into those topics because I know there are things you want to know about first and foremost, and we are going to have that chat. Mr. Alessi, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here with the Law Nerds and to have a chat with you today. Thank you so much for making the time.
Well, thank you, Emily. I'm very excited to be here. Looking forward to having the conversation with you and your wonderful audience, the Law Nerds.
You are a partner at DLA Piper in New York, and you generally practice in environmental and finance. So coming into a criminal trial is different, but not that different because you do a lot of work with experts. What kind of experts do you work with in your kind of more usual legal practice?
I work with experts in virtually every field. To give you an idea of the spectrum, it can go from geologists, hydrogeologists, physicists. I used to defend the power lines cause me cancer cases for the utility industry worldwide. So I've had epidemiologists, every type of medical doctor for that. I defend high-profile product liability cases. So every type of scientist that goes into making pharmaceuticals. I also do practice criminal law, but it's white-collar criminal law, insider trading, and particularly in the financial services industry. Foreign Corruption Practices Act, translated is the allegations that a company in the United States and individuals have bribed a foreign official to get business. So I do enter the criminal realm, but I call, as some others have, this type of case, the Karen Reed case, sort of the more blood and guts, blue collar, if you will, crime, which is definitely not something I do. But in terms of experts, you name it, and I've had it, accountants, it runs the gamut. And I absolutely love it. I love the technical aspect, the STEM, and I feel like I get an education, almost like a college degree each time I have a case. So it's also enjoyable.
I think it's something that people don't always see is how much a lot of lawyers need to like to learn, because it really is, they call it the practice of law, but you are constantly learning, but you also have the experts that you are working with to help educate you. And you almost get to pick the best in a field to give you an education in what you are learning about. And it's very clear that you are someone who enjoys learning and also likes rising to the challenge of being an expert in that field for that trial. You also, as the law nerds know, went to school to become a licensed pharmacist. I think there was a day when it came up in the chat that you have this entire different background. You didn't just say, well, I'm going to get an undergrad in political science and go to law school, and this is the trajectory. So you went to undergrad and got a Bachelor of Science looking towards pharmacy and then went to pharmacy school. How did you decide to go into pharmacy in the first place before we get to that shift?
Yeah, how I got into pharmacy was I loved chemistry in high school. And I just went into the guidance counselor's office and said, I have no idea where to go to college. I don't know what major I should have. And back then it was sort of assumed you'd pick a major. And so he said, well, what do you like to do? And I said, I love chemistry. And he said, go in the green file in the alphabetical order and look at pharmacist, and then come back to me after you read it. So I did. And I said, looks great to me. And it wasn't any more complicated than that. And I went to pharmacy school. I absolutely loved it. I didn't love calculus, but I liked physics and chemistry and all the rest. I graduated. I became, you have to sit for a board and licensure. I became licensed. And actually, I went directly to law school, but on Sundays, because there was a pharmacist shortage in law school, and you couldn't keep a pharmacy open without a pharmacist there, I would, in my left hand, bring my law books, my right hand, the little TV to watch a football or a baseball game because it wasn't that busy. And then I'd get a check in the mail every week. And it was like Pavlov's dog, and it was kind of hard to let go of that. But I love practicing pharmacy, and I'll stop there. But that's how I came to be a pharmacist. And there's nothing better. Pharmacists have such a high standing with the community, trust, everything else. They serve obviously a very vital role. And the last thing I'll say about becoming a pharmacist and then going to law school, when I told my mother I wanted to go to law school, she said, "Oh, that's great. You're going to go from the top of the trust and honor all the way to the bottom in one fell swoop. Congratulations."
I imagine that your background in not just pharmacy, but in sciences has really helped with your trajectory into work with experts, because not all attorneys either enjoy or have the background to want to learn what the experts are talking about. And I imagine being able to speak their language has served you incredibly well. We saw that in trial, that you are looking at an expert being like, I know your field as well as you do. Now let's have a conversation.
Yes, exactly. First of all, I never am going to be able to be as facile with the subject matter as the experts, but I do know the language.
The good ones.
I can, for cross-examination purposes, I'd like to believe I can get the job done. But in terms of overall subject matter, and I'll learn the subject matter of the trial, hopefully as well as they know it. But a second point is, yes, my technical background was amazingly efficacious for me to be able to do what I do in the law. In a bit of humor, I was the one, for example, in physics class, and I had to, we had calculus-based physics, and I was the wise guy in the classroom saying, why do we have to learn this stuff to practice pharmacy? This is just torturous discipline to all of us. And lo and behold, well, I really didn't use it that much in pharmacy. I've used it a lot. I have a lot of energy cases, and I sit there reading things and the predicates for which I learned in pharmacy school and saying to myself, thank God for pharmacy school. And all of those topics I complained about. And yes, there's been a direct translation in many ways.
One of the things that we found through the Karen Reed case as we were covering some of the appeals work, and I don't often deep dive into cited cases. We do a lot of live court and going over the documents in court, but there was a fact scenario in one of the appellate cases with a juror missing, and I couldn't help myself but go on a deep dive for this case that came out of Puerto Rico and read all of the underlying opinions. And then we came across a First Circuit district judge, appellate judge, the late Judge Celia, who has a love for language. And while we were going through that fact scenario, it was one of the most well-written opinions that I've ever read from an appellate court. And it was hilarious, his use of language. What we learned through that as we did a deep dive on this jurist is that his law clerks had a game that they would play in trying to submit things to him with a word that might get used in his briefing or in his opinions. And so Judge Celia started to be known for Celia-isms. And as we started the Alessi word of the day, we were taking inspiration from Judge Celia and his words and kind of keeping track of the vocabulary that is expanded for many. And it was really just a joy to not only see your love of language, but bringing that into the court. The only, I think, disappointment the law nerds felt was that you never got the opportunity to use crapulous in this case, which was a word I frankly had never heard of. And as I was reading a law clerk's rundown of his work with the judge, the different law clerks had word of the day calendars to try to find the best word to weave into an opinion. And this law clerk had won with crapulous, getting into an opinion and the different things that Judge Celia would work in. Do you ever have, well, we called it a word game at the DA's office, but words that you are weaving in as either an inside joke or a nod to something you enjoy in your either written or oral advocacy?
I do. And I think what helps the assimilation process of new vocabulary is making it fun. Be it you try to force in, or as you say more eloquently, weave in a word that you've read. Maybe you saw it in a movie. Maybe it was in a comedy situation. The word came out. It sticks in your head, and then you look for an opportunity to use it in the practice law and brief writing. I do that in terms of in my law firm. There's probably endless commentary about my vocabulary and what's going to be used and what's going to be acceptable. I have the research memos done, and every once in a while, for mentoring, I'll tell people, okay, go, write the brief for this. Don't be disheartened if I read your brief and I just write my own. And very similar to what you just described, that almost without exception, at least one word not commonly used is found in there, in part to show their competency with the English language, but also to see if I'm going to bite on it, take it and use it. So I know that process well. I just believe there's just many, many wonderful things that come from doing those things with vocabulary, but most of all, to underscore, it's fun.
I think one of the things that the law nerds were really blown away by is that you, through your firm, were working pro bono on the Karen Reed case. But for those outside of law, I know that there is an understanding that this means the client is not paying, but I don't know if there is as well of an appreciation, not just what that means for you, but what that means for your law firm, because that is, for a trial of that length with as much pretrial litigation as went on, it's a significant undertaking for a firm to have a partner pro bono on a case out of state. It's really an unusual and kind of incredible thing. If you could share a little bit about how, not just how your firm does that, but how that worked for you to be pro bono on this case out of state.
Yeah, I'm so proud of my firm, DLA Piper. It's a fantastic firm. Not to run the commercial, it's the largest law firm in the United States. It's the third largest in the world. We have a widely acclaimed pro bono program. We have a very, very strong commitment. It's part of our cultural fabric to do representation to those in need at no cost. So our firm is well known for it. However, our firm does not do trial level murder cases. We'll do an innocence project type case on appeal. It's much more constrained. It's much more measured. I went to the firm, they had asked me to consider coming on the trial team the first time, and you guys got it. And, and I'm kind of busy. Then the second time when David Jannetty came to me, I didn't watch really a lot of the first trial, but I didn't like what I saw in terms of what was going on in law enforcement. And I said, I need to get involved. My firm supported me. It wasn't easy. Wasn't easy for people to understand why our firm of our stature was going to go into a highly publicized case where someone's accused of murdering a police officer of all things. And so I'm very, very proud of my firm. What does it mean? I mean, I was supposed to come on and do a couple experts, and that was really going to be pretty much it. And then, the Commonwealth started trying to pick off the experts in terms of Daubert's the pretrial, and you're absolutely right. There was a heavy pretrial aspect. So I was supposed to just sort of start with the trial in January, whenever it was going to start. And I was going full bore in November, getting ready for the Daubert hearings. And again, my firm was fabulous. I blew past by probably a factor of 20 the hours that I estimated I was going to be participating. And to your point, Emily, it's not just my time, it's the lost opportunity to my firm and it was essentially 6 months. And at my hourly rate, 6 months of work gets into 7 figures.
Yeah.
And in terms of, not that things should all be a monetary figure, but that's real. And my firm supported me. Not once did any one of my partners peep one word about how much time I was spending, the lost revenue from it. And I will also say, my clients, and I have significant energy companies, financial services companies, were so gracious and so patient with me to allow me to do this. So in order to make it work, a lot of people, in addition to myself and in addition to my firm, had to make a sacrifice. And that's what's just so spectacular about this whole atmosphere, is to use the tired cliche, for me to do this, it did take a village.
It speaks to you too, as an attorney, that your team works so well together. And it's one of the things that was unique to see with the Karen Reed defense team is how well you all worked together. You could tell just from my side of the screen that there was a level of trust and respect amongst the team for who was handling what, and knowing that when something was handled, it was absolutely handled. And that is something you don't always see when you have lawyers that are incredibly well respected, each and on their own. You generally will have a more senior lawyer and junior lawyers. But in a case like that, you did not. You had all very experienced senior trial attorneys working together as a team, which is incredibly unique. And you had said earlier, it was Jannetty who brought you into this case. How did the two of you originally meet?
Yeah, David and I originally met on another case. There was a person who needed an attorney. It was an alleged domestic violence case. The person who was searching for the attorney just went on the internet and found David Jannetty's name. I knew that person pretty well, and I knew the person, sort of a high-profile person who was accused of domestic violence. And so David was hired, and David would ask for my thoughts every once in a while. I tried not to be the helicopter attorney on the matter. It's hard, but it's easy with David Jannetty. He is so fantastically skilled as an attorney in all regards. He's brilliant, and he's also one of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet. And he's got riz off the charts. He conferred with me on a few things, and we just got along famously on the case. He got a fabulous result. The jury was out for all of 1 hour and 45 minutes, came back with a not guilty on every count. All thanks to David's wonderful lawyering skills. And so after that, during that case, he said, I've got this other case I'm working on that's got some similar undertones. And it was just getting underway, and it was the Karen Reed case. So he started talking to me about it. And so that's how I met David Jannetty. One of the greatest events in my life was being connected up with David Jannetty.
It's really been fun just on our end to see that relationship grow and to see you in interviews together. Did I see correctly that you both are considering a podcast together?
Yes, we are. And we're actually in efforts right now to make that happen. It's not going to be a podcast, I don't think, Emily, like yours and others. I don't know if I could ever meet that standard. It's going to be more general topics. Certainly the law is going to be a big part of it. But we're working on it. My daughter, Laura, who's very talented in many areas, is helping. And then we have her significant other, Evan, who's brilliant. He sold his company. It was in the Wall Street Journal. I've got just fantastic people. And most importantly, I've got David Jannetty. And so we're taking a little bit of time there to get there. We want to do it right. But yes, I believe we've crossed that threshold of, are we going to do it? And now it's in execution, and we're going to try to get off right. And we may have a very unique way of how we build the podcast coming, but more to come. So yes, thank you for mentioning that, but I think that's going to become a reality. If I had to say what time, I think probably after Labor Day, but there may be some things before then, podcasting and streaming about how it is we're going to build the podcast. So more to come.
I'm sure that you will be asked in the future, and I have been asked with bar associations and continuing education and more to talk about the experience of a high profile case and cases that have an aspect of attention online in them. Do you have any initial advice or thoughts for attorneys engaging in cases that are of a higher profile, particularly online, because it's a bit different than just being high profile in a region, as you've just gone through this? It's a very unique but growing thing that lawyers are not well enough aware of, I think.
Yeah, it's an outstanding point, and I bet you I could teach a law school course that would take 3 or 4 semesters.
I would love to do that so much.
It is so important.
Yes.
And there are just so many dynamics that go to it, but it is incredibly important to recognize. I mean, this is, when first it used to be no cameras in the courtroom, then it was cameras in the courtroom. And there was, in my view, and I've taught this, you have to change based upon the cameras in the courtroom, whether you like it or not. Social media has exponentially changed how I believe you should try a case. And it's not, and I'm going to repeat, it's not about the attorney and the attorney trying to have self-aggrandizement, trying to bring more theatrics. It's what you need to do for your client. Sometimes you have to be even more circumspect than if you were just without them. But it's all about how do you most effectively achieve your client's goals. In social media, lawyers like to ignore it. Some like to say, it doesn't matter. Oh, if you're considering that, you're playing to the cameras. No, there are things that I did repeatedly in the wake of social media. And I'll leave it at that for the moment, but it's real and it's important. And I will tell you, I love, love, love practicing law. And one of the things I love the most about it is the community writ large gets to see the judicial process. It's imperfect, but it's the best process we have in the world for settling disputes. And I am thrilled to death that people take an interest in it, learn from it, because justice does get served, not the way everybody likes all the time. But I believe social media is fabulous for getting people involved. I hope they stay involved because, Emily, as you know, in the end, the judiciary is just part of government. And I'm a huge believer of people being active participants in their government, no matter what their views are. It just makes society better. And if I can help in that regard in my lawyering or whatever else, then, I'm happy to do my part. But social media, huge, huge, huge impact on trying cases when they're certainly at this level.
We probably have another 3 hours of conversation to have, but I know that you have to get to work. I want to make sure that people know where to find you. So if you want to tell them where to follow along for info on the podcast and to follow along with you, because I know they will want to hear more from you and we will have to have another conversation and share.
I'm at Bob Alessi on X. Had a little issue with an imposter recently, my first experience with that. I think I got through that, but that's probably the best way to watch for what's going on until I get the, David and I get the YouTube channel set up. I think that'll do it for now. I appreciate the opportunity for you to allow me to say that. Of course.
And please keep me posted so I can keep the law nerds posted. A lot of them are not on the former Bird app, but I will also keep them posted. I know you have to get to a meeting. Thank you so much for joining us. I know the law nerds enjoy you so much. So thank you. And we look forward to not only having another conversation, but hearing more from you.
Well, Emily, it's been an absolute pleasure. What a great opportunity for me And I especially appreciate to be on with the law nerds who are a very intelligent and a very engaged community. So my pleasure.
They are. Thank you so much. We will see you soon. Take care. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss updates on your favorite cases, you're going to need the Law Nerd app at lawnerdapp.com. That way you can stay in the loop on the cases that matter most to you, and you never know when you're going to catch feelings for a new case. So make sure you get it for free on iOS and Android. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a law nerd.